In De'Aaron Fox's return, the Kings take down the Spurs 127-109 in a game that I'm kind of glad we're just past at this point because I wasn't really looking forward to this game all that much. Like, I mean, there was a little bit of me that was, but also I was just like, we have to like rehash everything that happened. And, right in the morning, you have articles coming out about what went down. And it's like, we didn't learn anything new, but it's just like we have to rehash all this old stuff. Like, I wasn't really looking forward to that. And so it's nice the Kings came into this game, and although it was a slow start in the first quarter, they take care of business relatively easily. Let off the gas a little bit, like halfway through the third quarter, especially on the defensive side of the ball, but they always had control of it. It never got too worrying, always answered the Spurs runs just enough. And I'm happy that, Zach LaVine outperformed Fox by quite a bit. And, I said that Fox was either going to go for 50 or he was going to go for 15 inefficiently. And well, he went for 16 inefficiently. And I'm not going to lie, like I love Fox. I'm not one of those bitter people, but like it absolutely made me feel good to watch him do all of the things that has been frustrating us as Kings fans for so long, like go 0 for 6 from 3 and not get aggressive until the end of the third quarter and gamble for a steal and give up a wide open dunk. Like it makes me feel better watching someone else have to deal with that and not for him to just like turn into this different player once he gets to the Spurs. It's like, okay, well, the deficiencies that he does have, at least that's still happening. At least it happens when they play us. Because that's the thing. I think the way that everything was handled was very good. Very little booing when he was introduced in the starting lineup. A big standing ovation when they show the tribute video. But then when he's on the court and he gets the ball, then he gets booed. And that's exactly how it should be handled. Like once the game starts, once he gets the ball in his hands with that Spurs uniform on, he's the enemy. But, with the tribute video and welcoming him, then it's cheers. That's exactly how it should be handled. And just moving past, that storyline part of it. I mean, Zach LaVine was trying to make us forget about De'Aaron Fox, and the Kings have another game where they just take care of business, and that's what they've been doing a ton recently, taking care of business against worse teams. This is a Spurs team that the Kings should absolutely destroy. This is not a game where you can use the lack of Sabonis playing or Monk playing as an excuse because the Spurs are starting Bismack Biyombo at center. They don't have a backup center. They're playing Mamu and they're playing Sohan as their centers. And this Kings team just continues to take care of business. And that's been really impressive. Massive game from Zach LaVine, but I really thought that this was like a Keon Ellis game. Because Zach LaVine, yes, amazing, but it's kind of something, I'm not trying to take away from it, but it's like something we expect him to do. Keon Ellis, he showed me some things that I feel like I haven't seen before from him. Like, yeah, he locked up De'Aaron Fox, and that was great. He hit a couple of threes. But for me, it was him stepping in, and with no Malik Monk, he was handling the ball, and he was handling it so confidently, and he was making super good reads. He was taking it upon himself to make the defense shift, and then making those reads, making the right passes. And so he was just showing me some growth as a ball handler, as a playmaker that I hadn't seen before. That, along with him shooting well, him scoring, him defending really, really well. An amazing game from him. It really was just a really good game from everyone in the Kings starting lineup. Although it didn't start very well. The game started with it just feeling a little bit sleepy, maybe on both ends, some turnovers. They had 4 turnovers pretty early in this game, and they only ended the game with 8. But they were getting some transition opportunities. They weren't converting on those transition opportunities. And then on the other side, they were just giving up some looks in transition themselves, not matching up, giving up an offensive rebound early on, settling for jumpers. And then when they were going inside, they either weren't finishing or they were trying to feed a pass that was not really there inside. So the offense wasn't totally clicking, but the things that kind of kept the Kings within striking distance was Keon Ellis defending super well, getting an early steal, an early block on Fox, just getting a ton of deflections, being an amazing defender. Also, DeMar stepping into threes with confidence, and we continue to see that after the Nuggets game where he was super annoyed with the officiating. He got fined $25,000 for his public criticism of officiating. He was just like, he pretty much said like, I just want to get out there in the next game and win. So he was super annoyed after that loss to the Nuggets. So I knew he was going to come out aggressive, and he was definitely shooting. It's not like he was hitting everything, but it wasn't a negative for the Kings offense. You even had him hitting his 1-3 off a behind the back feed from Valanciunas on the perimeter. And Valanciunas continues to be very good as a playmaking big, filling in for Sabonis. Another 6-assist game for him. But the Kings offense still was struggling a bit. And the bench came in, and I liked what Markelle Fultz brought immediately in off the bench. He just went straight into the paint and muscled his way inside and didn't finish, but he got his own rebound, kicked out. Eventually, it found Trey Lyles in the corner for 3. And so I just thought that was a really nice play from Fultz, because the Kings had been settling for some jumpers and weren't making them at all that great of a rate. So he was actually able to get into the paint on his own and create something, even though it wasn't him that scored or got the assist. But he was still the one that created that open corner 3. Stephon Castle came off the bench for the Spurs, and he started cooking us. He was hot early on. I think he definitely started 4 for 4. I think he started 5 for 5 from the field. And he was just doing it with his strength. I mean, he was knocking down his jumpers as well, and that's the big thing for him. But he was just really strong with his takes inside. And the Kings weren't doing a great job of getting back in transition and really getting into the gaps to be there as help defenders, because against both Stephon Castle and De'Aaron Fox, but it was Castle early, like, you got to get back in transition. You got to get into those gaps. And if you get into those gaps, then you're going to be able to force some turnovers if they try to drive, or just stop them from driving altogether. But we saw some early minutes for Devin Carter, which was interesting. Only 4 minutes for Markelle Fultz in this game. And he came in and he had that one really nice play, but I do think he wasn't having a great game. The offense at times definitely doesn't look great with him, just with his jumper. And so Devin Carter comes in and he played 14 minutes and started out missing a couple of threes. But I do like that he's aggressive in shooting them. But I think the bench came in and they were just playing a bit stronger inside than the starters started the game off with. And that's what you need from your bench when your starters come in and maybe don't have that mindset to get inside. You know, they're settling for the jumpers. The bench has got to come in and provide that mindset of getting inside, getting to the rim, and playing a more physical game. That's what Markelle Fultz did. That's what Trey Lyles did when he came in. Jake LaRavia got an offensive rebound, kicks it back out to Lyles, who drives inside and has a tough finish. And you also had Keon Ellis getting like a ridiculous looking away from the ball turnover. Like, I don't even know how to describe it. You know, he's just running away from the ball and he just like throws his hands up and somehow intercepts the ball. Like, his steals are incredible. But I felt like they really started to get some positive momentum towards the end of the first quarter. But they were down 6 at the end of that quarter. Played some nice defense to start the second quarter. And I thought it was funny. The Spurs had 0.8 on the shot clock to inbounds, and the Kings just left Jeremy Sohan wide open. And so at first I was like, what are you doing? Like, I get Sohan's not a great shooter, but like, you shouldn't leave a guy wide open with 0.8 seconds. But the Spurs inbound to him, and he doesn't even get the shot off because his shot mechanics are just so slow. So apparently it was genius. You know, most guys catch and shoot. You can catch and shoot with 0.3 seconds on the clock. Apparently, Sohan can't even catch and shoot with 0.8 on the clock. But I think the start of the second quarter, you know, and how the first quarter ended with that physicality inside. Jake LaRavia, a big part of that, getting inside, getting offensive rebounds. And to start the second quarter, then Valanciunas kind of continued that, getting an offensive rebound inside, out-muscling Jeremy Sohan. So he got a big offensive rebound and finish. LaVine then drove inside, got a finish. Devin Carter had a really nice take inside and finish. And so that was very encouraging, something maybe we haven't seen a whole lot of from Devin Carter. Obviously, Devin has not played a lot this season. And so, like, those little things are very encouraging. But the Kings just really started to rack up those paint points. And then on top of that, you know, they're getting into the paint. So now they're shifting the Spurs defense. Now Zach LaVine starts to heat up from outside, gets 2 threes to go down. It kind of, for a little bit, was like Stephon Castle versus Zach LaVine going back and forth. But the Kings were then just able to start really pulling away because they were just battling inside. It was Valanciunas, it was Jake LaRavia, and Zach LaVine had a really nice stop on, I believe it was Stephon Castle inside. And so I feel like just the physicality really increased. And then I really liked how the offense was doing with a lineup of Keon Ellis, Zach LaVine, Keegan Murray, Jake LaRavia, and Jonas Valanciunas. I mean, the defense with that unit is great because you have Keon Ellis, Keegan Murray, and Jake LaRavia. Like two really good defensive wings, guys who are going to get after it. Obviously, Keon Ellis. And then Zach LaVine's no slouch, and Jonas Valanciunas definitely no slouch. And so I really liked that lineup and what they were doing offensively. That's kind of maybe where the question comes in. It's like, okay, well, where does the offense come from? Does it come from maybe a Jonas Valanciunas post up? Does it just come from the Zach LaVine Valanciunas two-man game? And there definitely was a little bit of LaVine Valanciunas two-man game, but I think the thing that really opened up the offense for that unit was how confident Keon Ellis was on the basketball. There were multiple times where I felt like Keon coming around those screens could have just pulled for three, like they were giving him enough space. But he was just taking his time, like he wanted better looks. And multiple times throughout this game, not just in this stretch, but throughout, he would have like Zach LaVine or DeMar DeRozan, and he would look them off. You know, he wasn't passing to them because he's like, I have another advantage here that I'm going to. And he was just really operating that pick and roll with Valanciunas well, putting the ball on the floor, trying to, get downhill towards the rim. But most of the time, he wasn't actually going all the way to the rim. He was just getting into the mid-range, shifting the defense, and then finding these really nice passes. He was just looking more like a point guard than I've ever seen him look. And I love that because, I think Keon Ellis needs to start. I love Malik Monk, but like if Keon Ellis can be that type of offensive contributor, I think he doesn't even need to do all that much if he's out there with LaVine and DeRozan and say Sabonis as well. But if he can just add that little bit of ball handling, then it helps him even more try to get a spot in that starting lineup, because the lineups that we were throwing out there defensively just looked really good when it was either, Keon and then one of Keegan or LaRavia, and especially when it was all three of them at the same time. Because we were able to hold the Spurs to 16 points in that second quarter and score 36 ourselves. And LaVine was on fire. I think he had 16 points. It was like 16 out of his 18 points in the first half, where in that second quarter only had 2 in the first quarter. But that's what Zach LaVine does. He gets hot. There are times where he's not really doing too much, and then all of a sudden, boom, he's in the game. I felt like there were some times where he was getting the ball, and it felt like he had enough space to shoot, and then he would just kind of take it inside the arc and take a tough fadeaway. And I was like, what are you doing? And then he would hit it. I'm like, okay, I guess so. Felt like he could have just taken an easier three, but if he's going to knock those down, like, who am I to say anything? There's a possession where Keegan was guarding Devin Vassell, and Keegan was just chasing him all around, over, under, through, like 3 different screens on the same possession. It forced him to give a grenade to Stephon Castle at the end of the shot clock. It was just a beautiful defensive possession from Keegan. The defense that we were seeing was so beautiful. Keegan and Keon both just locking up their guys, locking up the main offensive guys for the Spurs. And before the game, Fox had said, like, he got asked who he thought was going to be guarding him or whatever, and he said, yeah, Keegan's probably going to guard me. Kings didn't do that because we're starting Keon Ellis, so we put Keon on Fox. I guess Fox wasn't expecting that, and Fox, now he knows what it's like to be put on Ellis Island. And I just love the duo of Keegan Murray and Keon Ellis together, both getting it done on the defensive end, locking guys up, coming down on the other end, hitting their threes, which both of them were, but then also doing more. I obviously talked about the Keon playmaking. Keegan, he was attacking in transition, and that's something I've talked about him doing a lot recently, where he just looks like a better transition player. He's getting the ball, going to the rim hard, but not out of control like he used to. And he was able to get 2 really nice transition finishes in the first half. And that's big because on this team, like, where he's going to find his offense, it's catch and shoot threes. And then it's really just going to be like going after offensive rebounds to get putbacks and then trying to score in transition. Like, that's where he finds his offense. Valanciunas was just dominating Bismack Biyombo in the paint and everyone else. And then on the other end, we were just fouling Bismack Biyombo like a couple times when he got inside. And Biyombo, I think he went, would he go 1 for 4 from the free throw line? Yeah, 1 for 4. But it was all about the Kings dominating in the paint. 50 paint points, 30 second chance points. 30 second chance points is insane. Looking at the offensive rebounds, you had 5 for Jake LaRavia, 3 for Valanciunas, 2 for both DeMar and Keegan. DeMar was getting up for rebounds. He also was getting up trying to finish at the rim. It's an interesting one for DeMar. Like, you could tell he was pissed off because he hated the officiating last game. He hated that loss. The officiating in this game also kind of similar. Like, it was not good. So he was still getting pissed off. And you could see it. I mean, he dropped 9 rebounds, 22 points, 7 assists. Thought he was going to get a triple-double there for a second. But yeah, and then other guys chipping in, Keon, Trey, Markelle, Devin, all with an offensive rebound to combine for 16. It was just an amazing quarter, up 14. It kind of ended in a weird way where like Chris Paul ran over DeMar. Don't know how it wasn't a foul. Like I was saying, the officiating, a little weird. Then Chris Paul was getting all up into Keon, really handsy, no foul, and the Kings like barely get it across the line and get a timeout. And then like nobody scores. It was just a very odd end. But Kings up 14 after just an incredible quarter. And they came out in a very similar way. LaVine hit a 3, Keon hit a 3. Valanciunas getting 2 quick fouls on Bismack Biyombo. And, I mean, the Kings were just pouring it on. Keegan with another transition finish. You had Keon Ellis. Just everything he was doing was so good. Both locking up Fox. Fox was just clanking everything. And the things Keon did. He threw an amazing post-entry pass over the defense to Valanciunas, who just laid it up. Which, someone on the Kings that can throw a post-entry pass, like, it's a miracle. Then he like found the little weak spot with the defense in rotation for a catch and shoot midi. Then he got a steal and slow stepped Vassell in transition for a nice reverse layup. He was just in his bag. And then LaVine was just doing his thing, hitting a tough step back contested 3 to go up 27. From there, things started to go downhill a little bit for the Kings. They let off the gas. Especially defensively, especially in transition. And there were some weird moments, like this is when the officiating got a little questionable and got mostly DeRozan very annoyed because Sohan just like bats down on his arm like 3 times. So DeMar, yeah, he like grabs his arm and pushes it off. And then DeMar gets called for the offensive foul after he just got hacked. So that was kind of the start of things. I mean, DeMar, He drove inside, missed a layup, stayed with it for the offensive rebound and put it right back in, and then caught the ball as it came down and just held it because he was pissed at the official. So he's like, I'm just taking this delay of game. And then a little while later, he went for that massive dunk, and then like the ball just went off of him and he got called for another delay of game and gave them a free throw. Mad DeMar is pretty funny. But defensively, I mean, really mostly defensively, things collapsed. And I wanted to say that kind of offensively just because it was like the offense, maybe with a couple of turnovers or misses, that then led to the Spurs getting out in transition. But really, it was just all on the Kings' effort defensively. Like, they were just not getting back in transition well. And there were multiple moments where they could have easily, if they wanted to. But the Spurs just started generating open 3 after open 3, and Fox started to get it going a little bit, driving inside. Keegan did have a big block on Sohan in transition and then hit a 3 on the other end. Felt like that was a big sequence to like stop the bleeding a little bit. And DeMar did take over down the stretch. He like slowed things down, got to the line a few times, was just drawing fouls on Sohan, on Castle. But we were missing some free throws, and that let the Spurs into it a little bit more. Like DeMar missed a few, Lyles missed 2. The Spurs were just getting by guys so easily into the paint, and that was letting them kick out and find open shooters. And so the Kings went to a zone for a couple possessions to try to switch things up. It didn't work. And so, it's just like one of those moments where it's like, if he just would have like stayed locked in for a few more minutes here, he could have just had the game done. But, we got to sweat this out like a little bit. But DeMar did a good job of steadying things. They started sending doubles at him. He hit Devin Carter, who hit a big three at the end of the quarter to go up 19. And that really like calmed things down. But to start the fourth, it was more of the same, just more bad transition defense. The Kings gave up like 6 wide open shots from 3. The Spurs hit their first 3 threes of the quarter, got it within 12. There wasn't enough communication. They weren't finding Harrison Barnes in the corner. We know Harrison Barnes, he just runs to the corner and knocks down open corner threes all day if you will let him. Like, that's the one thing he does now. If you take that away, he doesn't do too much anymore. But they're just like gambling and some communication issues and just some effort issues getting back in transition. LaVine had a couple of nice takes, including an and one to, slow down the momentum a little bit. But it was frustrating watching the Kings give up open 3 after open 3. But Mamu missed an open 3 after he made his first, and Keegan came down the other end for a big and one. And so I loved the aggressiveness of attacking from both LaVine and Keegan to combine for a quick 8 points when things started to go south and force a timeout from the Spurs. And then for some reason, it started to become the Jake LaRavia show. He's starting to show out offensively. He's feeling more comfortable in the offense now. He had a spin move to get to the free throw line. Then he hit a 3. Then he was getting into his bag against CP3, and Chris Paul tried to like kick the ball as he was crossing him over, but crosses Chris Paul over, goes straight to the rim. And so we were sticking with Jake LaRavia instead of Keon Ellis for a bit there, giving Keon a breather. And then Jake LaRavia took it like one step too far, tried to just do it himself on offense one possession. I can't remember if he turned it over or if it was just a really bad shot. But either way, they're practically the same thing, right? Spurs get running the other way, score. So then DeMar was like, okay, give me the ball. We're done with the Jake LaRavia experience. It was fun for a little bit. It's like, okay, now it's DeMar time. Get Keon Ellis back into the game here. I swear Keldon Johnson probably had like 10 open 3-point attempts in that fourth quarter. Luckily, he wasn't hitting all of them like he normally does, but he still hit a few. How many he hit? 3 for 7. But DeMar, again, just kind of took things into his hands, slowed things down. It's not like he was even that efficient offensively in doing that, but we didn't need him to be. And this is what I've asked the Kings to do for so long. If you remember that game against Phoenix last season, where the Kings had like a 20-point lead with 8 minutes and they blew it. It's like you could take a shot clock violation on every possession and still win the game. But because you keep turning the ball over, that's how you lose. And so with DeMar just eating 24 seconds off the clock every time, it doesn't matter if he makes or misses. Like, just make a couple of them and we're going to get out of here with the win. And that's the nice thing about having DeMar when you have these leads. You just give him the ball and get out of the way, and he'll just eat clock for you. And even if he's not that efficient, it's okay. But there was a really another really nice play from Keon when he came back into the game for LaRavia, where he took a screen. I think it was DeMar setting the screen, and then DeMar went out to the top of the 3-point line. And what the Spurs were doing, they like switched, and it looked like DeMar was open pretty much. And most guys would have just made that pass to DeMar because one, it's DeMar DeRozan, he's open, but like he wasn't going to take that 3. And so Keon Ellis sees he has this advantage with Valanciunas in front of him. Valanciunas is trying to get his position, and the weak side defender from the other corner starts cheating over because he sees Valanciunas with this mismatch inside. And so Keon just skips that pass to the corner to Zach LaVine, who pump fakes, sidestep, easy 3. And so those are the types of things that I'm seeing from Keon. It's like this processing. He's starting to get it, and it's really impressive. So Kings closed it out, got Scal in there for a little bit. Scal had a nice midi off a feed from Devin Carter, also hit a 3. That was nice to see. And they just continued to stack wins. They've been competitive in every game lately and are winning most of them, except that one in Denver. And so you look at the opposition that they beat, and it's like, it's nothing crazy, right? They're not beating these great teams. But at some point, when you just like keep beating them, like that's impressive, especially with the way that they've just been comfortable wins every single time. You have more important games coming up now with teams around you or really good teams, but it's still super impressive to beat all these teams, even if they aren't the greatest teams. Going through the box scores, some of the stat lines, Zach LaVine, 36 points, 7 for 11 from three. He's been incredible from 3-point range, 14 for 22 on the night. This dude's he's so efficient when he's got it going. DeMar had 22, like I said, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. Just a solid game from him. Keon had 10. Every starter was in double figures. 10 points, 4 steals, and a block. 4 assists, 0 turnovers. Keegan, 19 points, and he's been consistently now putting up stat lines kind of like that, getting in the high teens, and he did it on 7 for 14 from the field and 3 for 7 from 3. Add in 9 rebounds, a couple of blocks. Valanciunas, super efficient in 27 minutes, 15 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, a couple steals, a block, all on 7 for 8 from the field. Everyone in that starting lineup, super impressive. And then LaRavia came in, chipped in 6 points, 8 rebounds in 27 minutes, and 3 assists. Not the most efficient, he went 2 for 9 from the field. Him on the ball is hilarious. It's an experience. I can't decide exactly who he is with the ball. I also can't totally decide yet who he is as a 3-point shooter, what shots he likes to take. Like, he's a little all over the place in which shots he decides to shoot versus pass up, when he decides to take it himself on the dribble. Like, I can't figure him out yet quite offensively. I feel like most guys, like they come in, and after, a few games, like 5 games, you kind of have a feel for how they play. I still have no idea who he is offensively. But what I do know is he's going to get after it defensively. He's going to get after it on the boards. Trey Lyles, 6 points, 5 assists. He's been doing that more recently. And 3 boards. And then you got Devin Carter coming in and getting 8 points, 2 assists, 2 rebounds in 14 minutes. The Kings now move on. They go to LA to play the Clippers. That's a big game. Clippers right with us in the standings. Then after that, we play the second night of a back-to-back against the Knicks at home. The Knicks are on their West Coast road trip. And you know what they've done so far? They've lost to the Warriors. They've lost to the Lakers. They've lost to the Clippers. They're annoying me. They're really annoying me here because I know they're just going to play lights out against us. But they won't have Jalen Brunson. He went down in the game against the Lakers in overtime, I believe that was. And I can't remember. I don't know when Sabonis is supposed to be reevaluated. I think it's like right around this game. But I doubt he'll play this game. Hopefully Monk will be back for this game, though. But what I could see the Kings doing defensively is a little bit like what they did against Jokic, where they're going to put Keegan Murray, Jake LaRavia, that type of guy, on Karl Anthony Towns, and have Valanciunas guard Josh Hart and play more as a roamer, play more as a help defender, not because Cat's going to put a guy in the post and you're building the defense around him necessarily. And so that's, a little different. Instead, it's because you want a guy who's going to chase around Cat, and other guys are going to get more offensive opportunity with Jalen Brunson out. And so you're going to look for Cat to carry the load offensively, but you're also going to look at a guy like Mikal Bridges. OG Anunoby killed us earlier. And then a guy like Deuce McBride off the bench stepping up for probably a lot more minutes. And so we got to see that, second quarter type defense like we saw against the Spurs, not the second half where it was poor transition defense, not getting back. So anyways, that is it for this episode of the Roll Report. I will be back on Sunday to recap the game against the Knicks, so I will see you guys then. Peace.